Our Major Garrett joins us now. Major, I want to ask you, there was a question asked if whether there was any concern by the White House that Michael Flynn might essentially turn on the president, and the answer was one word, no. But based on what you are hearing and the atmosphere there at the White House, is there concern that Michael Flynn might turn on the president?
There doesn't appear to be, and when you see the White House press secretary answer so quickly and so confidently, that's either a very good and very solid poker face, or it's reflective of something that the White House believes it doesn't have much to fear. And that's at least currently the posture about Michael Flynn's potential testimony either before the FBI or the relevant intelligence committees, both House and Senate, into this entire matter. And the president's tweet, Michael Flynn should get immunity, and we are reminded, as I asked Sean Spicer all the time, to take the president's tweets at face value. Well, if you do, that appears to be an instruction to Congress and possibly an instruction to the FBI, grant him immunity. Well, that's a very big deal, because if you are being granted immunity, you can't be prosecuted for anything you divulge, anything you confess. And it's relevant not just in terms of a congressional investigation, but the FBI. Because, and I won't go into all the elaborate details about it, but there have been episodes in American history where people have been granted congressional immunity, testified, and then later been convicted by the Justice Department and had those convictions vacated. Why? Because they'd been granted immunity by Congress. So this is a very interesting development for the president to say, Mike Flynn should get immunity. Because if he does, he might be shielding himself, and that might indicate to Congress or the Justice Department how it should conduct itself in ongoing negotiations with Michael Flynn's attorney about how he will or won't testify.
Major, you'll remember under the Obama administration, Lois Lerner, who was asked to come testify, had asked for immunity. They were looking into targeting conservative groups by the IRS. She was not granted immunity. She chose to take the Fifth. If we see Flynn taking the Fifth, any way of gauging how this might impact the investigation?
Well, it would impact the investigation by saying there's no information being provided by Michael Flynn. So that would stall that investigation, at least at that level. But it would also suggest that there is something that if he did disclose it, it would be discriminating. It would be something that would be compromising of his legal ability to defend himself. And that's what you cite Fifth Amendment protection for. You don't want to incriminate yourself. There would be information that if you told somebody, Congress or the Justice Department, you might be incriminating yourself. That would be something that lots of people would draw a conclusion about, but it wouldn't add to the evidentiary information either the Justice Department has or Congress has.
And we know that Sean Spicer says the White House made an overture to folks on the Hill to come forward, particularly the House Intelligence Committee, to look at the intelligence. And we understand that Congressman Schiff is interested in coming to look at that. What more have we learned about that?
Well, that's all we know, is that Congressman Schiff is willing to come over here. But as I asked the press secretary, Sean Spicer, the Senate Intelligence Committee said, no. Have the agencies themselves that collected this information give it to us directly without any fingerprints from the White House. And Sean Spicer said the White House counsel is reviewing that but has no information about whether or not that's going to happen. That's the Senate Intelligence Committee saying we're not interested in coming over there and looking at things that have been handled by the National Security Council staff or somebody else. We want to see it directly from the agencies that collected it and all the background information in that collection process. That's the intelligence community saying we want to see the information as it was collected, not as it was processed in the ordinary course of business here at the White House.
You know, Major, we try and look back at history to see if there's any sort of comparison. A lot of folks are looking at the Ollie North case in 1987 where he was granted immunity. Walk us through that. Is there any sort of parallels that can be drawn from the two, or are they very different?
I don't think there are parallels that should be drawn immediately. It is just worth noting that when Oliver North was granted immunity by Congress, that became a deeply complicating factor in his eventual prosecution by the Justice Department. And those were the convictions I was mentioning indirectly that were vacated because of this complicating factor of congressional immunity. And so these are two different branches of government, the executive branch, judiciary, and Congress, so they can't tell each other what to do, but it does complicate things if Congress grants immunity. And there's another briefing coming up here on another topic, so I'm going to need to go. You need to let me out of here so
Certainly
other people
will.
here can take care of the briefing and do the question and answer.
Thank you very much. Our Major
Thanks.
Garrett inside the White House briefing room, heading on to another briefing right now. We'll have much more from inside the White House. And don't forget, I want to remind you to download the latest episode of The Takeout today. It's available every Friday morning on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And watch The Takeout. That's with Major Garrett and Steve Shigaris. They always go somewhere fun to eat in Washington. It's always fun to see what they order. That's Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, right here on CBSN.